Hello, everybody. Glad you could join us for episode number 39 of the Launch and Beyond podcast, a podcast designed to support you not only achieving great success in your business, but in all other areas of life as well. When we study and dissect how amazingly successful people are able to keep going throughout all the trials, tribulations, setbacks, and disappointments that are part of not only an entrepreneur and business owner's journey, but also in the journey of life, we're able to identify some specific habits, beliefs, and practices that really help set them up for success. How do they keep themselves inspired to keep going throughout all of this? For some, it's their specific mindset. For others, it's their motivation, particularly when they come up against specific challenges. And for others, it's the process of planning the work and working the plan. In this week's episode titled Keeping the Dream Alive, we discuss 10 steps that you can take that will increase your chances of seeing your dream and vision through. And interestingly, many of these do not actually involve doing more. Many of the points we discuss involve shifting your mindset, challenging your beliefs, expanding what you think is possible, and perhaps just getting yourself out of the way. And that's the reason that's holding you back. We look forward to getting started. We hope you enjoy it. So good afternoon, Adam. It's a different podcast recording time slot for us today. It's a Thursday afternoon. We've got the Melbourne AFL Grand Final. I should say that Melbourne AFL Grand Final, but it's actually the AFL Grand Final for the first time away from its spiritual home here in Melbourne. It's been in Brisbane on the weekend. That and the Rugby League Grand Final this weekend makes for a big weekend of sport. So we've shifted our podcast recording to earlier in the week. So how are you keeping today?
I feel like they've bastardized the AFL Grand Final because firstly, they took it to Brisbane. First time in its history that it's not been played in Melbourne. But then secondly, it's a night Grand Final now. So that's the first time that's happened as well. It's all about the viewers. But for me, AFL traditionally 2:10 on a Saturday afternoon and Grand Finals 2:30. And it's the last Saturday in September. I understand this year's been different, but it's just changed my whole feel about the game, which has been tough. Obviously, everyone's got to make do, but I'm not as excited as what Jim is. So we'll see how it goes. I'll be watching the game, but it's tough restrictions here. Not allowed to have a barbecue, not allowed to watch the game with friends, not allowed to have a beer with, your next door neighbor. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm really excited for the next night because my team is in the grand final, the NRL, and that's always played away, and we're always in hostile environments, and we lap it up. We love it. We always turn up for those environments. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And yeah, as you touched on, Jim, it's a little bit different. We're recording on Thursday before a long weekend. Tomorrow's a holiday. So it seems like both you and I had just a massive, intense day to try and fit 2 days in one.
Yeah.
And my mind's still a little bit frazzled, to be honest. But you know what? We do this. We don't get paid for it. We don't run ads. And we do have a loyal following. And we really appreciate it. But we are business owners. We are human beings. So, sometimes we do need a little bit of time just to unwind, but we do appreciate everyone coming along for the ride with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
How's your week been?
Well, I was going to say a full week, but it hasn't really been a full week. We've condensed 7 days down into about 4 to ensure that we get this all done. But for the same reason that you just said, we've got a commitment to produce the podcast, and so we need to create time. This week, I'm involved in 3 businesses now, and this week everything just ramped up a next level. And I already thought I was ramped up a next level, but it definitely has. So that has meant that I've had to be even more efficient and more effective in everything that I do. Still doing my training and honoring that as well. So, there's a part of me that looks back and thinks, what the hell was I doing with all my time? Probably 5 months ago, 6 months ago, but it has been a really busy period, and I don't use that as an excuse. It's just to go, there's been a lot on. And what I'm really happy and proud of in myself is my capacity to work through that, get really laser focused and keep delivering on time and doing everything that I have agreements and expectations to do. So that to me, has been interesting. It's a public holiday tomorrow here in Melbourne. I'm actually on. I've got a massive day tomorrow. in my mind, it's a Mickey Mouse kind of a holiday tomorrow anyway. It's usually for the grand final, but we don't even have that. So look, that's just me. And it's a commitment I make to myself to get stuff done for the period of time that it needs to. So,
Well, 2 points there. Firstly, it is a Mickey Mouse public holiday because it wasn't around 4 years ago.
yeah.
It only came in very recently, so it still feels very new. And I forget about it every single year as it's coming in because we took a public holiday to go watch a parade that probably only a couple thousand people go and watch, or maybe 10,000 people. I won't discount how many people turn up, but to have another public holiday off, it just it grinds my gears because I don't take public holidays. I still work everyone. So tomorrow I'm in again and working on all my stuff. The second thing, I hope you're actually scheduling more downtime for yourself because as you outlined in your intro, being busier doesn't mean you have to fill all your time up.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you can fill your time up, but fill your time up with downtime as in your schedule.
Yeah, no, I definitely have. And how I've made that work, it's funny, I was talking to someone earlier and today, I was coaching someone earlier and today, and I said, I actually schedule break times.
Yeah.
And the way that I do that is with my diary, I'll actually allocate and say, okay, between this time and this time is downtime. And I have to actually do that because what I was finding is when I wasn't doing that, my productivity was going down because I was looking for distractions. And so now I can go, right, okay, between the time that we're recording the podcast, I'm focused. And then leading up to and afterwards, I've got some downtime, I'm training. And so, yeah, for me, downtime has to be scheduled in order to make it happen. And without that, you basically, you run out of energy in there as well. So no, it definitely gets done. Thank you for the reminder.
No, that's right.
As well.
It's true. Like today, because I've been just so flat chat, I've got 2 phones, personal and business. But the business phone, firstly, I was really busy, but I wasn't touching my phone or I'm reading the 4-hour work week. So I'm trying to take away as many distractions as possible. And my work phone's still at 85% or 86% at 4:30 in the afternoon. So it just shows that I've been super productive in what I need to do, but I'm not allowing technology to distract me. I think I've answered 2 emails today and that's about it, but I'm getting the results on the board that I should be getting.
Yeah.
And that's, you wrote the topic for today, this morning, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, I understand this and I'm living that today. I'm just keeping the dream alive.
Yeah.
Just scheduling stuff. And when I read through it quickly, it is a valuable topic today.
Yeah, great. So let's get stuck into it, Adam, because I'm super excited about that as well. It's funny, there's always a preparation in terms of the podcast, and there's some planning, and sometimes the concept and ideas just come through. The idea for this, no joke, I was meditating 2 days ago. I'd actually had a different topic that I was going to put forward for us to record, and I had a meditation. I meditated, I came through, and this came through me. So a lot of the topics I put forward for your consideration as well. I go, hey, what do you think about this one before we record it? It's actually like they come in and it's the momentum. There could be a theme that's going on with our clients. And I go, this is showing up for everybody. Let's put it out there. This one, honestly, I meditated and it came through me, and I basically just jotted it all straight down. Almost that was my cheat sheet. It actually came through me. So there's a higher power that was a co-producer of this one, and I need to give all credit to that as well. And for me, when you talked about downtime, that's what it is. Meditation. I'm creating a lot of time and space for that, and what that's allowing me to do is to connect and deliver high quality output in a lot of areas, but ensure that I don't get cooked and exhausted. So here is credit to my meditation, and in the spirit of the podcast, it's keeping the dream alive. So let's talk about this today. So keeping the dream alive, as I mentioned, is a really important thing because it's what's going to help you keep going when things get difficult and tough. And so before we start, what is it that keeps dreams alive? There's a whole lot of reasons that we should sort of outline that may be the reasons why your dream may be derailed. Okay. And some of those may be, and we've covered these in some previous topics as well, Number one, others may not understand your dream. So how many times do you share a vision, a dream with somebody, and they don't have the same level of enthusiasm or excitement as you do? You're like jumping up and down, go, this is great, and they're going, I don't see it. I have no idea what you're talking about. Why would you want to do that? And so a lot of the times people become dispirited and despondent and lose momentum in their dream because people don't have the same level of enthusiasm as they do. So that's one of the biggest reasons that people's dreams get derailed. The second reason is that they come up against obstacles and challenges. Now, obstacles and challenges can come up with a variety of forms and formats, and some of them can include, financial loss, relationship breakdowns. You could have critical members of your team or supporters along the way just going, look, I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore. And quite often that may help you, that may sort of not help you, but lead you to doubt your vision, doubt your dream, and lose momentum for a while. So that's a really big one, in terms of the losses along the way. The third level, and this is a really common one, particularly when people have got a lot of moving parts in their dream and vision, is that they become overwhelmed with so many things that they need to do. And what do they do next? And, we talked about it briefly, with so many things in both of our worlds that could take our attention at any one time, Adam. I'm putting forward that both of us have to actively work against avoiding overwhelm.
Yep.
And like I said to you, the strategy that I use is, number one, exercise. Number two, meditation. Number three, just connecting with people who help me see the funnier and lighter side of things and just help me get out of my own head. And that to me is a really good way of clearing overwhelm. A lot of the times it's like go and have a drink with them, spend some time with them. Haven't been able to do that. So there have to be different strategies that we put in place that can make it work.
Mine's just drink. No, just
That's
it's something that it's not an alcoholic tendency. It's more the fact that, for instance, at the end of the day, if I have a glass of scotch or even 2 glasses of scotch, it's just something that physically reminds me that I'm done for the day.
Okay,
like,
so
the second you have a bit of alcohol, it's like, yeah, well, you can't be in business moment now, because you could say something that you don't want to say. It's a physical reminder. But don't get me wrong, I've done 75 hard. This is my second time around this year. I've been not touching alcohol for 5 months. So I can see there is a difference. And as you've said, you've got to try and work around it, as your year develops. And exercise has become that sort of solace for me this year. And going for my run after work, that means I've officially finished work for the day, because no one wants to talk to a hot, sweaty mess that can't even hold his breath for 2 seconds to hold a proper conversation. So that's helped a lot.
Yeah, and something about that too, particularly what I'm understanding is, so that the alcohol in itself, what you're saying is it serves several features and functions for you. It's number one, it's a means of relaxation. For most people, it's also a social engagement. Hey, I'm having a drink with someone. They get, that's what, for a lot of it, what it is. That's what a lot of people are missing, is the relationship and the connection and the fun and the socialization aspect, which they're missing. But also for you, it's kind of like a double white line. It's like a boundary where you go, okay, this is the separation between home and work, or work and home, I should say. So consequently, I get that. And that's just something that I've had to really work with as well too, because I do have a capacity and an ability to just keep going and going and going. And
on the beers?
No, not on the beers. I just, in terms of like, there's an insatiable level of energy that just keeps going and going.
Yeah.
And so I have to build in deliberate processes and strategies to ensure that I have awareness, situational awareness around what's going on. And that means, relationship and health. And that's why I schedule everything, and I have cues and reminders, and I use technology as a means of notification to go, right, okay, you're done, get out, do that, because I get so immersed in the process that I get so absorbed with it, I forget what's going on. So to me, that's where systems are kind of like double white lines for me, to ensure that I don't get overwhelmed, and I ensure that I nurture each and every part of self for me, to ensure, because I've identified they're really important. And once I can actually do that, it means I'm more productive and more effective and more balanced and harmonious in myself.
Yeah, well, now now that I've sort of been more conscious of this, it's one of the things I've talked to Jim about. I've wanted to learn how to write things down a lot more because it's something that I know that it can get me to that next level, but it means that I can outline my dreams and I can move forward. So now it's just retraining everyone that we've got this communal whiteboard that when you need to order something, just write it on the board. Mondays, order days. Tuesdays, we do other stuff. Wednesdays, we do other stuff. And I can schedule everything during the week that way. And then we don't have to have that conversation 10 times. Did you order this? Did you schedule that? When's the delivery coming for this? It's all now on that whiteboard. So now that process of me having to constantly have meetings or discussions with people, that's gone. Yeah. And now we can focus on how we're going to grow our new product, how are we going to enhance our dreams, how are we going to build our business to go to that next level. And then it gives me more time because I'm not having those small unnecessary meetings. I've got more time to reflect on myself. I've got more time to visualize. I've got more time to sit in nothingness, almost like a meditation, a business version of meditation, sit in nothingness so that I can get that vision in my mind before I can write it down and before I can move forward and outline those steps. So that's why when you were telling me about, or when you sent me this, I was like, yep, I'm vibing on this. I've been doing this for about 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like I might not be an expert in every field, but when I see a topic like this and I'm like, I've just started doing this because it's come up in books and all this that I've been reading. I'm like, I'm really passionate about this. This is what I really want to chase after. And I might not know all the answers, but I'm going to give it my best shot.
Yeah. No, perfect. And really what you've outlined just before too, Adam, about the whole process, what I've outlined is systems to avoid overwhelm, which was the third point we were talking about, right? If you are overwhelmed, you're going to be disconnected and you're going to be so in your head that you're going to be like, it's going to be like a slipstream. And so there has to be strategies that allow you and empower you to know what the next logical step is and to keep moving forward. So that's really what that is, right? And that leads us to the fourth point, specifically about, when you're emotionally and physically tired, to keep, you're going to run out of just momentum and you're going to run out of fuel to keep going. And so there have to be processes and strategies to nurture your health, both mentally and physically, to ensure that you have the reserves to keep going, right? Because they quite often say an army marches on the fullness of its stomach. And so if you're hungry, your desire to keep going is minimized. And it's the same principle. If you're hungry, if you're not feeding your soul, if you're not feeding your connection, if you're not feeding these relationships that nurture you, you're going to run out of steam. You're going to run out of steam and puff. And consequently, the vision and the dream will not manifest. And so that's why it's really important that they're nurtured. So they're the main reasons why dreams get derailed. So if we were going to flip that and say, okay, great, these are the reasons why people have dreams that become apart or don't manifest. What are some of the things that people can do to keep that dream alive? Right? We've identified 10 of them. And like I said to you, they came through me today. I'm advocating what came through me from a higher power today. So let's go through the 10 things that were channeled through me that I'm sharing with you and by extension, everybody else. Jump in at any stage, Adam, because I feel like I'm on a roll here. I feel like I'm in a zone.
Yeah.
I'm pumped. I'm really excited. I think it's because this topic resonated with me as well too. So there's a big emotional intensity that's coming through. Jump in anytime you need to.
Yeah, sure.
So the first thing that's going to help keep the dream alive is to visualize and set an intention for what you want regularly. And what I mean by that is, often for most of us, a lot of us focus on what we don't want more than what we do want. A lot of the times you'll say to someone, what is it that you want? I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't want this. I don't want that. And you might be 2 minutes deep into a conversation and all you've heard is what they don't want. And so you just go, what is it that you do want? Because if you're wasting your energy and time on things that you don't want, you're not actually devoting your focus on what it is that you want.
Yeah.
And when you set an intention and visualize and focus on what it is that you want, you become like metal filings to a magnet. Things that you're going to attract to you people, places, things, opportunities, situations that are going to help you accelerate that process and get you on a trajectory to manifest and live that dream. But it's because you visualize it, reflect on it, meditate on it, do whatever it is that helps laser your mind to that outcome.
Yeah, and I love this point. This is, this is gold. This is always what I love talking about, and this is the law of attraction. You know, if you again, we can break it down on the scientific level. We're all atoms, we're all electricity and currents. But if you're constantly thinking positive, you attract positive. If you go negative, you go negative. Sort of like a karma type thing, But one of the things, one of the cues that I talk about, I forget where I read it, but someone gave the example of, if you close your eyes right now and you visualize your name, how you write it with your hand. So you write your name, what texter you're using, what pen you're using, how big you write your J, how big you write your I, how big you write your M. And then next second, do it again, do it again, do it again. Your eyes are closed. You're just believing, thinking about it. Next second, you open your eyes, you grab that pen that you were thinking of, you grab a piece of paper, and you write your name exactly how you thought it in your mind. And then you can see that you have produced something that you visualized, and that's how simple it is. All right, you've got your emotion, you put your practice into it, and then you can produce what you've thought about in your mind. That's a very simple example, but if you're looking for big goals, what you have to do is constantly visualize it, constantly put an emotion behind it, put a chemical reaction. And when I say chemical, I mean like happiness. So you release your endorphins. So you put an emotion of happiness behind something, then your body chemically releases endorphins, so that you relate that to something positive. So now that gravitates towards, you gravitate towards that. It's like, there's another example. If you've just bought a new car and you've been driving home, and then all of a sudden you see 10 of the exact same new cars, and you go, how come that just happened now? It's because your mind's been open to the fact that there is that car on the road. So that's the same thing as visualization. If you're visualizing something, all of a sudden you'll open your mind up to the possibility of doing this, which you might not have thought about before. So I think point number one is, I haven't read the rest of them, but
we're going through them. We're working through. So the important takeaway message here: when you set an intention, you set a path of action along that pathway. And when you talked about the law of attraction, a lot of people who misrepresented what that was okay, I think it, now it comes. No. There still has to be action.
Yeah.
You still have to take action along that path, but you're setting an intention, you're lasering your focus on exactly where you want to go. And then you take action along that pathway that helps you get there better, faster, quicker. That's what it's about. It's not about sitting on your couch waiting for things to happen because you want it and wish it hard enough. It's like, that's where I'm going, and get so super focused on that as a pathway. So,
yeah, and it's one of the things that people visualize, but do they visualize accurately? Do they visualize to the specific detail? Like on March, 15 of 2022, I want to reach this specific goal at this specific time. And then that you've got to get there. So you're working towards it, and you've actually set a time and a deadline. So then what you do next, you work out the steps. How do I get that? And you work it through your mind first before you do anything. So what's the first step? All right, well, I need to increase production to sell more products. All right. So then what do I do with that? I increase production, I sell more products. What do I do next? I've got to find the customers. Which customers do I have to find? So you're all visualizing this. Before you've even done anything anywhere, you start visualizing, this is the customer I need to approach. How many units do I need to sell to that customer? It needs to be this amount of units. All right. How are we going to do that amount of units? How many staff do I need? And you start working through this all in your head before you've even done any action. And then you go, that March 15 date in 2022, that's the date that this is all going to come in. All right, that's a long date of expectancy. Some people can do it in 2 months. Some people, because it's a new skill, they might want to give themselves a bit of a buffer to help ramp it up. But the more experience you get with this stuff, the quicker it can happen, because you've got more emotions, more connections, more confidence in yourself, and you understand the process. And you realize that you can't do this for 6 things at once.
Yeah.
You got to really laser focus yourself and go,
Mm.
all right, this is the one topic that I'm going to focus on for the next month, next 3 months, next
Yep.
6 months. And that's where we're going to go for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Great addition there and distinction. So you've set an intention. The point number two, and this is really important to keep in mind, is that you need to embrace the courage that's required to live your dream. So it's all well and good to say, this is what I want. Yeah, I hope to do that. But there's a different focus between hoping and proclaiming, striving for it, and this whole process of expanding your vision, claiming it, owning it takes courage. And not just once, like regularly. There's going to be regular tests of your courage that you need to lean into, despite all the setbacks, the disappointments, the frustrations, the doubts. Courage again and again is going to be a important factor. And Ryan Holiday wrote a great book. If anybody's interested, it's called The Obstacle is the Way. Because a lot of the time, the thing that keeps showing up, the thing that you're scared about doing the most, the thing that keeps you awake at night is the breakthrough area that you need to lean into in order to keep that dream alive, to keep that vision going, to progress. And so this is the courage we've talked about, the courage to take the first step in a previous podcast. That's what it's about, is identifying where is it that I need to expand, grow, lean into, and then having the discipline to take that first scary step to move forward. And that to me, that's probably one of the most defining things that will determine whether you're going to put yourself out there and risk the process that it may not work, or stay there and not even start it in the first place.
Yeah, and I believe, I don't like social media that much, but I believe that putting some intentions on social media is a form of courage as well. Like, for instance, when I first started 75 Hard, posting that daily achievement, like, yes, I did today, yes, I did tomorrow, or, every day becomes today, but I did day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, and you keep posting it every day. But it's showing that your intention is to get to 75 and putting it out there to social media. You put yourself out there to go, you'll have haters come and go, why are you posting this? Or you'll never make it to 75 hard. You've never done this in your life. You've never done 2 workouts in your life. How are you going to do 150 back-to-back workouts? Like, you get all of this, but it gives you that courage. You're like, I don't care what you say. I'm putting this out there because that's my intent. That's my dream that I want to do, is to complete this. And I think Jim has said this a couple of times, just be big and loud of what you want to achieve, because then you become accountable for it, and then you got to get out and do it. It gives you that courage, because you're like, I've put it out now. I've got to make this work. However it happens, I got to make this work.
Yeah, that's like I said to you, that's one of my strategies for that reason, is not showboat it, but declare it.
Yeah.
And if I declare it, I'm in, and energetically, I'm not backing out. I'm going full in. And to me, that's a strategy that works for me. That keeps me accountable to it as well. So, which is really interesting that you said that, Adam, because the third point of protecting your vision and dream is protecting it from the apathy, inertia, and the naysayers, or the haters, or the blockers, all those kind of things. So, along the way of, you fulfilling your dreams and vision, you're going to come across people who, just like we said, aren't going to believe it. You can't do this. What are you thinking of doing? Who the hell do you think you are? What a ridiculous dream. Those kind of comments. And it's important to identify those, because you need to have a strategy for how you're going to handle these. If you get angry, if you try to deflect it, if you take it on board, they're all going to have an impact on how you go about things. And a lot of the times, I know in my previous example, the part of me, I use it as fuel. I use it as fuel to keep going. And sometimes it was to prove people wrong. And I get it. That works up until the point where you go, okay, I did this, I achieved it. There you go. Up yours. But then you go, well, at what point did I do this about, or was I doing it for me or for them? And so this is in the psychology, and working with a lot of people and even studying them. Some people get momentum to prove other people wrong, and that's going to work. But if you're focusing on just that as the only fuel, or the rocket fuel to work, you'll still get outcomes and you'll still feel unfulfilled.
Yeah.
So that's why it's really important in that process is to have a strategy to protect that vision, and then also keep connecting into what are your compelling reasons for starting this in the first place? Why is this dream so important to you? What is, what's the objective in this? And when you get clear on this and you own it, you're not going to have apathy. You won't have inertia because you're inspired to keep doing what you're doing. And that inevitably will help you deal with the disappointments and obstacles that come along the way.
Yeah, and you touched on something a bit earlier. You were talking about the FU mentality,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's what fuels you. That's definitely what fuels me as well. But a lot of the time, your naysayers are pushing it onto you because they can't see themselves doing it. They haven't done the work. They haven't invested the time. And you know what? Everyone lives their own life. We can't judge them, and that's the difference between us and them. So your naysayers like to judge. They like to voice their opinion. They like to just put stuff out there without actually thinking about it. But us, people who want to be successful, you have your vision, you internalize it, you think about it internally, and you can see yourself doing this. Whereas they can't see themselves doing it, let alone see anyone else they know doing this.
Yeah.
And then it builds a bigger gap between them and you. And then that makes them feel more uncomfortable. So they choose to put more hate out onto you.
Yeah. Adam, I've spent the best part of, how old am I now? 50, nearly 52, right? I've spent the best part of 30 years doing personal growth and development work, right? And as an angry young man, I used a lot of FU energy as fuel, right? As anger, and that catapulted me to these phenomenal outcomes. But what happened is along the way, I lost myself in that process. And so most of my journey has been about inspiring rather than proving people wrong, right? And so what I realized and what was really amazing about this is that um, even in working with my spiritual coach and whatever, I got to the point where these days now it's about legacy goals, fulfillment, all these things that inspire me. And yet, even as recently as this week, I put through a proposal to someone, and they came back and said, it was within a financing one. There's a part of a venture, and the financing people came back and said, no, we just don't think you can do that. And a part of me just went, yes, I can. And I literally made it happen in a day, right? I just actually went, it was just to finance like $30,000. And I said, can I do this? And I said, no, we can't do it. So I literally just went, right, stuff it. And I just wrote a check myself. I did it, right? And I don't know whether it was stubborn ego, whether it was frustration, but I remember talking to my wife, Bettina, and saying, look, I get 30 years of personal growth. I should be able to rise above this, but why do I feel so inspired? And why, when someone says to me, this can't be done or you can't do it, do I get so triggered to the point where I go, yes, I can, and I'll show you, how quickly it will get done, and I'll basically bypass you in the process. So that's, I have to go back and go, okay, I need some more work to focus on, but that's how I use it. The fuel is there, but I want to keep changing it. That's a work in progress for me.
I'll show you how great I am.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. And like I said, I tried to, about 10, 15, 10, 12 years ago, when I tried to suppress that part of myself, I actually realized I was miserable.
Yeah.
I actually realized that, okay, rather than try to suppress it, I need to embrace the beast. And in doing that, I just got to a better, more comfortable place in myself, and that felt much better.
Yeah, I understand that.
So I got that.
I've got a delivery here now.
Okay.
So
well, you go and do that.
Yeah.
Pause.
I'll pause the recording.
Pause. I'll go to the bathroom. 1, go.
Sorry, guys. We just took a little break there. It's probably not going to look any different to you guys or sound any different in the audio. But as Jim said, we're recording in the afternoon and it's a later one. But I had a delivery come through, and it's funny that we're talking about visions and dreams in this podcast. And I just sent Jim the picture of what we just got delivered, and this machine goes over. It wraps pallets, so we can wrap our cakes in bigger volumes now. But it came over 2 pallet sizes, and we needed to try and negotiate because my forklift isn't big enough to actually take this off. So it was on the back of a tow truck. So we were there sitting negotiating, going, all right, tilt your tow truck just a little bit as I lift my pins up just a little bit, and we're just trying to negotiate. And it was lucky I had this really old school tow truck driver. He knew all the tricks in the book. It's like, no, just pull back a little bit, and we negotiated it off. And then I'm thinking halfway through, I'm like, isn't this just so fitting? We're talking about dreams and visions and, growing and visualizing. And I've thought about having this machine for about 8 months, and today's the day that I finally got it. So I know we're taking a little break away from the podcast, but I was really excited to share that. It's a massive machine, over 3.2 meters tall. Our factory is 7 meters, so it's pretty much halfway up the factory wall now. I just don't know where to place it. It's just so big. But again, I visualized this for months and months and months, and today it came through as midway through the podcast as we were talking about it.
So we took a break in proceeding. So there you go. That was a bonus. That I've got to tell you, that didn't come through in my meditation. I didn't see that one happening. So thank you for adding that. That was a really good addition and an optional extra to include in the podcast episode.
Feels like a DVD extras,
There you go. There you go. There's the extras for the producers extras.
Yeah.
So Adam, let's move on. So point number 4 of ways to keep the dream alive. And this is a really important consideration. And this is about the self-care element for people. It's about nurturing your own self-esteem. Right. So this is really, really important because along the way, there are going to be times where you're going to question yourself. You're going to question whether you deserve this. Who am I to be dreaming this? You tell yourself, the story you tell yourself about yourself and all those kind of things really important. And it's really essential that you keep expanding your own capacity, your own version of self, because quite often if you don't, that can actually be the bottleneck that prevents you from fulfilling your purpose. You could be the person who isn't there mentally in order to facilitate and make that dream alive. And so, it's quite often been said, you can't outgrow your level of self-esteem. And if you don't keep expanding yourself at the same time, it's going to come up as a capacity constraint for your vision, your dream, your goals.
Yeah, I agree. And I was actually talking to my mum about this today and just saying, you don't just do personal growth once. You have to constantly do it. It's like, a muscle. You can't just lift and do 10 bicep curls and expect to have arms as big as Hulk Hogan. You constantly got to work at this stuff, and you got to nurture your self-esteem. And that's why with 75 hard and the running specifically, yesterday I hit my best target I've ever hit in a run, and a continuous run. So that means today I've got to beat that. But at the same time, it feeds my self-esteem because I'm starting to get into a good distance of running, and I'm losing the weight, which is always the bonus. But my self-esteem is coming bigger and better. I'm becoming a bit more of an athlete, and you can see it. My posture's changed, and we talk about this all the time, how once your self-esteem is bigger, you push yourself out as a bigger type of person. It doesn't mean physically, but your aura bounces off. You've got a bigger energy bubble around you, and people get more attracted to that sort of stuff. So that all comes again from vision and dreams. Like when I start running, I just go, I'm just going to keep running until I finish my time now. And that's it. And that's my vision. It's that simplistic. Don't stop running.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's how you're applying that principle to other areas of life. It's not just relevant in one area. It's usually relevant in all areas.
Yeah.
Right. So that's cool. So how you do that leads us to point number 5 in terms of how you keep your dream alive. And that is you raise your own standards and expectations of self. And, a couple of podcast episodes ago, we talked about the importance of leveling up, and to get to the next level, quite often in order to fulfill your dream and vision, you have to raise your standards and expectations of yourself. What's important, what you do, what you think is possible, and importantly, not settle for mediocrity by doing what everybody else does, because if you do that, you'll get what everybody else gets. And if you actually truly want to create something that's different, something that's extraordinary, something that most people don't have, you have to be things that other people aren't prepared to do, or basically act in that way. So this is a really compelling thing, and just basically raise your standard, raise your expectations.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier in an earlier point, you've got to visualize this. You've got to go, where do I want to be? And then you've got to work on your steps to
Mm-hmm.
get there. And that's raising your standards because you're currently not doing what you want to be doing. So how do you raise your standards? So today, this morning, first thing I did, because yesterday I was in the production kitchen and our mixing and portioning guys had the day off on Wednesdays. And yesterday I was there doing some development and everything I picked up was sticky. And being in a cake kitchen, you know, when it's sticky, you just get turned off. And then I've got to wash everything again before I start developing, because potentially what I develop, if it turns out right, it goes to lab testing. So I don't want to have any cross contamination there. So then this morning I came in and I just blasted everyone. I go, how is everything sticky? Everything I pick up is sticky. Everything has fat. And then my parents turn around and go, what side of the bed did you wake up this morning? And I go, but we can't move to that next level if we're constantly going, yeah, that'll pass today. That'll pass today. No, we got to get to that next level now. And how do we do that? We start with simple things like making sure nothing's sticky when we walk in the kitchen or when we leave the kitchen. And it's just so simple and basic, but sometimes you need reminders.
Well, that's it. I like that. The standard is the standard. The level is the level. You see that, you know, in the military, the Marines, they have a high level and expectation, and that's really what that is. And it's actually really interesting. I remember reading an article from, I can't remember exactly where the source was, but it was talking about, for some Marines, um, the high point of their whole level, their standard, is while they're actually in training. And they hold a standard that they look back and say, why did I let that go?
Mm.
And in those scenarios, the standard that is set by someone outside of themselves, and so consequently they'll do whatever it takes to get to that level, but they don't then have the self autonomy or self control to raise their own standards when they're not in an environment when someone's pushing them. And so it's a really important point. I know a lot of people feel that they get a lot more discipline when they're in a team environment and everybody has to do it, in which case they do it. And then when they're by themselves, they let themselves off the hook. And this is a really important consideration, because sometimes there may not be others around you, and you've got to find a way of actually raising your own standard and expectation, not flogging yourself, not guilting yourself into doing stuff, but finding a way to tap into your own inspiration as a means of taking action and raising the bar on yourself. So important. So important.
Yeah, I can see that as well. And when I was in junior karate, I'd be the one that was slightly older. I was probably 3 or 4 years older than some of the others, but I'd be the one who would be doing the most push-ups. Even if I couldn't do a full rep, I'd still be the one that was doing the half rep and then the half rep and then drop down to my knees and then start pumping out those full reps, because I just wanted to raise my standards. But when I was around others, it would always be higher. So I understand when you're talking about the Marines, because you're around that others, and then there's that teacher barking down at you. But now I've learned that I've got to be the one who keeps the standard, and I've got to upskill, because no one's going to spoon feed it to me. So I've got to be the one who does that, and that's accountability.
Well, it is. And when you rely on somebody else motivating you, it's a disempowering process, because effectively what you're saying is the power is outside of me. It's in somebody else. It's another environment. I actually don't have self-control in myself. And if you can find a way of doing that, that's going to keep the dream alive, particularly when things get difficult or challenging. And probably a perfect segue into point number 6, right? In that is that in order to keep the dream alive, you have to have faith, confidence, and belief in not only yourself, but in the process. So it's paramount. You know, you talked about earlier on, Adam, about planning the work, working the plan, building in measures, tested measures to make sure that you're on track, you're accountable, and they're all metrics externally. But a lot of the times, you know, coming back to that previous point, it's about self as well too. You have to have faith. You have to have faith that you're doing the right thing, you're on the right path. You take feedback, you test and measure to make sure that that's in there. But once you've established that, you've got to trust the process and just follow the process from start to finish, and to let it play out. And if it doesn't work out, then you can course correct or make modifications along the way. But it's essential that you stay immersed in it and invested in that process and give it a chance to work.
Yeah, that's one of my big rules that I try and pass on to everyone, especially at the start of business when they come to me and go, "Hey, you've had a few businesses. What would you say?" And I go, "Trust the process and just be persistent." You've got to realize that a lot of the times you're going to have crap days, but those crap days, whatever the term is that you're using for crap, generally for me, it's a test day because I don't want to, have a negative connotation to it. But basically, it's the days where you get the big tax bills, or it's the day where, a staff member doesn't turn up, or there's a day that a machine breaks down. You've got to flip your mind and go, hey, we've got to trust the process. Why did the machine break down? Weren't we servicing it enough? Like, you've got to think about other possibilities. And then you might bring an engineer in to come service that machine. Once you've serviced that machine, they realize that there was 10 other problems. So it was like a hidden blessing that you came down because there was a breakdown on one thing, because you fixed the whole machine. Then all of a sudden your production lifts because now everything's running back in sync, and you've trusted that process. And instead of taking it out negatively and going, oh my God, this is going to cost me so much money, plus the downtime. Now, you get really angry and frustrated. That comes out into the whole energy. And all right, it's going to sound like a bit of a hippie podcast, but it's going to come out in your whole aura, and people around you are going to want to take a step back. And then when they take the step back, it becomes really, how do I say, it's not a comfortable situation to be in. So you've got to be able to see the issues and trust the process in that time, so that you go, all right, this is going to build me up and it's going to get me closer to my vision, but it's testing me right now. So I've got to upskill.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
With that one, but
yeah, no, I'm integrating that. My wife Bettina's got a beautiful saying. She says, hold the vision, do the now.
Yeah.
And it's a really good way of keeping your eye on the prize, but focusing what's right in front of you. And I had to reflect for a moment to make sure I quoted it correctly, so that was what that was about. But that's what it is, hold the vision, do the now, because it's holding on to the dream, staying connected to the dream, and then identifying that what's in front of you right now is a necessary step you need to take, overcome, basically solve, in order to move still in the direction of the dream. So same principle.
Well, you are the visionary.
How
many times has Bettina had to say that to you, that you forgot
all the time.
that you forgot?
I'm the test case. I'm the test case, because I am so clear on the vision, and quite often she goes, okay, well, what can you do now?
Yeah.
What is it that you can do right now? And probably out of that, that's probably inspired, I don't know, it's probably inspired elements of that as a process to go, okay. And it is really important for people who are visionary and entrepreneurial, is because a lot of the times you can see steps quite a few levels ahead, but sometimes you don't always see how this thing right now is relevant and important to that outcome. So I think that's a really big distinction. If you know which direction you're going, the steps will show up, and it's just a case of ticking them off, doing them, progressing.
Yep.
So that's how they link up. So no, good distinction there. Good distinction. So if we've gone through 6 points already, let's do a quick recap in case someone has forgotten them as they're going on. So step number 1 is to visualize and set an intention. Step number 2 is to embrace the courage required. Step 3 is to protect your vision and dream from apathy, inertia, and naysayers. Step 4 is to nurture your own self-esteem. Step 5 is to raise your standards and expectations of self. Step number 6 is to have faith, confidence, and belief in yourself and in the process. So step number 7 in keeping a dream alive is to actually ask for support. And we've quite often said this many times, that no person is an island. You can't do this necessarily by yourself, or if you do, you're going to be exhausted. And I've heard so many great keynote speakers and authors say that if you can achieve your vision and dream by yourself, it wasn't big enough. And when you leverage the power, the multiplier effect of other people, your dream can get bigger, better, faster, can come about much quicker than if you could do that by yourself. And if you get stuck, despondent, frustrated along the way, there's a particular courage and there's a particular discipline in reaching out and asking for support. And that's so crucial in helping to keep the dream alive, because when you're tired, when you're just about to let go and say, that's me, I'm done, that's when someone can pick up the slack and keep that moment going up until the point where you've recharged, revitalized, and are ready to continue that journey again yourself.
Yeah, and you find that a lot of micromanagers have a lot of trouble with this one. And it was funny because you and I, was it this morning or last night? We were texting each other and we are talking about the virtual assistants, or maybe not virtual assistants,
Yeah,
but
this morning. Well,
yeah,
that's one of the areas that I'm looking at for one of my businesses is basically incorporating virtual assistants to be able to leverage what we do.
yeah. Because sometimes, you know, we don't need that assistant all the time, but to have them always there just waiting so that you can go, hey, can you look this up for me? Or can you do this? And it means that you have the ability to have a bigger, deeper support network at your hand. So when you come to a point where you just don't know what to do, what's the next step, or you come up with a problem, you can outsource it almost and go, hey, can you really research this and go as deep as you can and come back with a report for me? So then you can come back here and go, all right, well, I've reviewed your report. I understand the concept now. I understand now what steps I should take to go to that next level. So to have a support team that you can trust enough and not micromanage, have a support team that you can trust enough to go do the work for you and then come back and review it. And all right, it might not be the exact same quality as your work, but that freed up your 6 hours, your 8 hours of time to do something else. And in Jim and my case, we're visionaries. So it frees up maybe 4 more hours in that day that instead of us researching like intensely, we've got more time to actually think of the ultimate goal, the ultimate vision, the ultimate dream, and work towards that. And outsourcing and getting support is a big help.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, 100%. Look, I have a PA now. I've got assistants in there. I've had a couple of PAs at any one time. The virtual assistants for me are in addition to them, in order to be able to who are in different time zones, so that we can have a turnaround time much faster in that particular area. So for me, it's like Northern Hemisphere virtual assistants who can, I could ask them to, it could be 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock Australian time or buzzing Southern Hemisphere time, put into action. And by the time I wake up the next morning, the solution's there and it's ready to go. And that's a hugely efficient turnaround time, because even if I was using an assistant in our time zone, it would be at least 12, 15 hours before you could respond to that necessarily. So that's what I'm looking at, just leveraging and scaling, but also having a faster turnaround time in some things by embracing different time zone virtual assistants.
yeah, well, there's 24 hours in a day, which is essentially 3 work days in the time zone shift. So,
Yep.
to have a support basis of, someone who could be there for 24 hours in each time zone, it's an amazing leverage to your business.
Yeah. So that was just for me. One of the ways that keeps the dream alive is by asking for the support and engaging it and looking for it in different ways. So, and point number 8, which is an extension of that, is to keep investing in yourself and your team. So if you're going to bring on people in there, it's so important that you keep upskilling not only yourself, but also them as well. So the previous version of yourself might have gotten you to this stage, but it's not necessarily going to get you to that next level. And if you have, we understand this at a computer level, at a phone level, where we regularly get upgrades in software, and we upgrade it to increase the efficiency, to get rid of bugs or viruses. If you've got an Apple, you don't get those. So if you get these type
You just
of
get the worst formatting ever.
pretty much. Okay.
What would you prefer? Everything formats nice and easy, or no viruses?
Viruses. Okay. Well, for someone like myself who's not skilled necessarily at the formatting, I'll get rid of the viruses. That's not going to be a problem. And so, but the point is that you need to be upgrading yourself, and by virtue of whether it's your support team, whether it's accountability group, whether it's a coach, whether it's whatever it is to help you identify your blind spots and help you perform at a higher level, is actually crucial and essential. Because, like I said, the skills that got you to this point are brilliant and great, but in order to keep the dream alive and keep it shifting and moving forward, you may need to learn some new things and about yourself and about technical elements that will help accelerate that process.
Yeah, one of the main things I always say about investing in your team is I find that it's awesome to promote within.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. I sometimes you need the outside view, and that's where coaches come in. Or sometimes when you're getting a bit too big for where your personal skill is, you might need to bring someone in to help enhance you. That's part of asking for support. But investing in your team, if you start from the bottom, I'll use the example from the factory. All right, so if you start from mixing the cake, you understand that we need to wash the fruit, then we need to add dry mix, and you weigh out all these ingredients. Then you need the wet mix, so we weigh out all those, mix it all together. You portion it in a certain way. We cook it in the oven. We got to wait for it to cool down. Then you got to cut the cake, wait for that to cool down, then pack it. So it's like a 2-day to 3-day process from first bake to packaging and then shipping. So if a person starts at the bottom, they understand that it's a 3-day. If someone comes in from outside and another customer goes, hey, can you produce this for us? And then they go, yeah, sure, it'll take us a day. And then we try and work it systematically into our structure. We can't do it in a day. So investing in your team means that they started at the bottom and then they work up to the next level. So they start as a cake guy, then they'll move up to cutting and packaging. And then from packaging, they move up to management. And then from management, they move up to ordering. And then from ordering, they come into the office and they do more behind the scenes, costings and dealing with suppliers and all this other stuff. Start with negotiating. And then they understand the process from what ingredients did we need? What will make our jobs easier from where we started at the bottom of the production. And that's where I started. I started at the bottom. So I know that something's going to take us 3 days because it took me 3 days when I was down there. So, and I point down because my office is upstairs. But yeah, I don't know. Today's episode, I'm still in the building. It's still fresh and, we're kicking on with this. But it means that if you invest in the team, they've got almost ownership on the products as well. So they're going to push that product. And when you almost say to them, hey, remember that time we did this? They were right there with you. You don't have to explain the whole story again to them. So it helps streamline your processes as well if you invest in your team.
It does. And sometimes you might have, and we've covered it before when we've talked about the people on the bus, sometimes investing in your team may mean that you invest in specific, you realize that one person's got great aptitude and skills in a particular area. And by investing in them, you're 100% right. A lot of people try to promote organically within their organization. That's provided the culture of the organization is really solid. But someone who's grown through the organization and gets a good understanding of all levels really gets a gist of what the culture of the organization is all about. So granted, and sometimes what's happened is they've shown consistently in research that if you parachute a CEO into a role, a rock star CEO, they don't always perform exceptionally well because they haven't really embraced the culture of the organization and all those kind of fits. So there's a whole lot of argument to, as you said, promote through. But in order for people to keep progressing, there's a management principle that says people will get promoted to the level of their highest incompetence. So effectively, they keep getting promoted up until the point where they don't have the skill sets in order to thrive at that level, in which case they stay there.
Yep.
So it's really, really important that if you identified attributes or skill sets in someone that you think would be a great attribute to have in a more senior role, you're going to develop your people. You're going to you want to retain them. They're going to be great for continuity, provided that they're growing and they're a good fit. Yeah, you keep investing in people, and that's what dynamic growing companies do. They don't stay stagnant.
Yep.
So it's a really important consideration.
And talking about that CEO, the rockstar CEO, they haven't earned their colors according to the staff. Like, you haven't earned my respect. You can't just get my respect because you're the CEO. You haven't done what we've done. And that's where sometimes there's a discrepancy. And that's why internal promotions, people know how hard each other work. And they go, yeah, that guy deserved that promotion. That guy, that girl, I use guy as like everyone. But that person deserved that promotion. And they're happy for them because we've had birthdays together. We've had Christmas parties together. We've been together for 3 or 4 years already. And we're still in a new phase of our business. But you get joy from this because you've invested. But then also you can show your other staff, look, if you take that initiative, and I'm happy to invest in you and put you up to that next level as well. And they can see it. It doesn't become unattainable for someone who might not necessarily be educated in this situation. But what's education? Learning on the job is just as good as, getting a piece of paper from a school and then learning on a job. You might know the principles, but you learn way more on a job.
Yeah. So really important, as we said, to keep investing in yourself and your team through a lot of processes. They could be skill-based upskilling. There could be a different type of training, but it could be personal development training for the group to ensure that they expand their own limitations. All those kind of things, crucial in growing your business and keeping your dream alive. Point number 9, Adam, is I think the inspiration for this came from Grant Cardone, who wrote a book called 10X. And really 10X as a principle basically says that it's possibility thinking. It's like, okay, we're so conditioned to looking for a level of solution at our current level. What if we just multiplied it by 10? What if the goal was 10 times bigger than what it is now? Maybe if you're just playing too small. And if you scaled things 10X, your possibility thinking and your ability to keep the dream alive would potentially come alive, because you would start coming up with solutions and thinking far greater than your current demands. And so that in and of itself would allow you to bring the best version of yourself, bring your game day version, so to speak, to the situation. And interestingly, it would allow you to consider things you may not have considered up until that time. So, at 1X, you may be able to just putter along and kind of get there in that scenario. But at 10X, that's going to keep the dream alive. And perhaps the dream is much bigger than you even thought was possible. But because you weren't expanding on yourself, you didn't realize the full implications of what was available.
Yeah, you're limited by your own beliefs.
Yeah.
And if you limit yourself to 1 times, 2 times, 3 times, hey, it's good. It's better than negatives. What if you did it 10 times? Much better would that be? That's when you get the shiny cars. That's when you get the big houses. If that's what feeds you. Or you could get the world trips that, you can escape. Or you could build a business big enough, because it's 10 times what you actually thought it could be. You build the business big enough that you can hire all the people so you can just sit at home and just chill if that's what you want. Or you can build a business big enough so it runs itself, so that you can build another business, because that could be what excites you, that startup phase. If you've got a big enough dream, you can enhance your life to 10 times what it is if you're using a 10 times model. But enhancing your business will enhance your life. In terms of, if you're 10 times in your business, you're also 10 times in your personal development. You're also 10 times in how you see your outlook on life. It helps to grow all across every board.
Yeah. I think that I take out of this a lot is you cannot dream 10 times bigger without changing some way, shape, or form.
Yep.
Somehow your systems need to better. If you say to yourself, if our turnover was 10 times more, what would need to happen? You go, well, we'd have to have better systems. I'd have to have better allocation of roles. I'd have to be much better in my task prioritization. So what if you bring that type of thinking into it, even though you're not at that 10x level? And so effectively because one of the things we always did in our businesses was always build a system with the expectation that if things doubled, tripled overnight, your systems would handle that.
Yep.
And so what happens a lot of the times, particularly for people, is they may grow and grow so quickly that they've overloaded their current operating system. So consequently, they get overwhelmed or self-sabotage. But what if you thought about it from the perspective of, we're building something 10 times bigger than what's immediate right now. So if we have the capacity to handle that, then we'll grow into it without any pushback, without any resistance points. So consequently, we can grow into that comfortably. And you don't have to necessarily capital invest in things 10 times what you need, but you've got the rollout of the plan. It's kind of like these big sheets that you only got a quarter of it open, but as it expands, you just open it out. That's 10x thinking. That's planning for 10 times while you're waiting for that to happen.
Well, you've reminded me of another point, like how systems structure businesses. And if you've ever seen the movie The Founder,
Yep.
it's the McDonald's story, pretty much, or how Ray Kroc stole it, or acquired it, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, they developed the Speedy system. And yes, they employed more people and they had more labor to sell a burger. I think at the time was like 15 cents. But they developed a system that could be scaled. And they could serve 1,000 burgers in an hour. And they were the only place that had this fast food. And that's where the fast food originated from, was because they developed their systems and their structures to accelerate the process of getting a good quality burger. And then they made it so good that they could take it from one site in one city to the next city and the next site, and then to the next city and the next site. And then all of a sudden, they're selling thousands and thousands of burgers an hour in multiple cities because they did the initial groundwork at the start. They had a dream, they had a vision. They wanted fast food to happen, but fast, good quality food, not like what we've got now, like fast food that's, microwaved and sent out the door, but they wanted fast, good quality food. And they had this vision to provide it to everyone. And what did they did? They took their time to invest in their staff and to invest in their structures and to 10x their vision. The only difference was between the McDonald's brothers and Ray Kroc was he saw the bigger vision.
Yep.
The 10x version.
Yep.
Maybe even the 100x if we want to go that far. And that shows you the difference of 1xing and 10xing. They had the ideas, they just didn't have that confidence, self-esteem to move to that 10x level.
Yeah, all those things we talked about, all the things. So great distinction, and it's a story of the entrepreneurial spirit, and that could happen at any stage. And I'm comforted by the fact that Ray Kroc was my age when he started on that journey with the McDonald brothers. So it's really interesting that, and I guess this is a really an important thing to remember, is that spirit can happen at whatever age. It doesn't have to be. It's traditionally, yes, you're younger, you've got the energy and enthusiasm, but there's people who I know in their 50s and 60s who are still entrepreneurial in spirit, and the principles are exactly the same. They just might have less time to make it happen, and so a lot of the times they'll go through a more stringent risk profile or mitigation process, and they're going to go, that's what I'm going to get behind. I don't have the advantage of time to just trial and error. I've got to be a lot more strategic in how I go about that. But that spirit doesn't go, and when you don't honor that, you try and suppress that. You try to, and I'm talking from experience, where you go, okay, that's pretty good, that's okay, I can get comfortable. Either you become a shadow of the person that you were, or you become miserable.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to express it in some way, shape, or form. So,
Yeah, definitely see that.
so all those 9 things in place are important, and they lead us to point number 10, Adam, which is, and we've talked about this before along the way, is the celebration of the goals and milestones along the way. And why this is important is because our brains are primed to look for meaning. The reward centers of the brain need a reward to basically to reinforce why we're doing what we're doing. And if you've got a vision that's so grand, it might take you years to get that payoff, if ever in your lifetime. And if all you do is to say, look, just keep working, keep working, keep working, without some type of acknowledgement or reward, it for most people that becomes dispiriting. There's a neuroassociation that happens or doesn't happen in the mind because all your brain conditions to do is to work without fun. And so many people that I work with, we make sure we build in fun goals. We build in celebrations. We build in rewards that give the brain some kind of dopamine hit that go, this was good. And achieving this was really good. And I want more of that. So I want to keep going. So along the way, we always say the goal is not the goal in and of itself. The goal is a pointer along the way to your vision that lets you know you're on the right track and acknowledges the effort and energy you're putting into it and says, yep, keep going. That's really what goals are that keep people motivated, inspired to keep moving forward.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you can get lost in the monotony of wake up, go to work, go home, wake up, go to work, go home. But if you have like a pattern interruption, that when something good happens, you actually stop, you reflect, and you celebrate. And celebrating could be any way that you want. You could buy yourself a new pair of shoes. Like you could buy a cake and eat it with all your colleagues or, all your staff, or you could go out for a few drinks, but you've got to stop that monotony and actually sit back, reflect, and celebrate. And this is one of the things that Jim helped me with, because when I was starting off, I had 2 or 3 businesses that I was bouncing back and forth and just seemed like there was never enough hours in the day. And Jim was going, hey, you made this amazing achievement. Did you celebrate? I'm like, no. And he almost jokingly laughed, going, that was me when I was younger. But, there's an amazing person in his life that sort of slapped him and goes, no.
Yeah.
You got to slow down and celebrate.
Yeah. It is. It's celebration, self-acknowledgement. They're really important. They're so important because it rewires your brain to look at the joy in that. And you can pretty much do that. You can find celebration, go, oh, this is so cool. Right, get back to work. Keep focusing on this. But like I said, the goal can't be the goal of it all. A lot of the times when we studied success, and when we look at it, what they've basically shown is that people are motivated, who are just motivated by money. They get to about $70,000, and up until that point, the quality of life, happiness, and joy levels don't go up significantly beyond 70,000. So someone's earning 700,000 or $1 million or 2 million or 5 million. They've shown that it doesn't just keep getting bigger in terms of the happiness quotient. Like if you're sub poverty level, a spike in income has a massive big metric and in your level of happiness. But beyond a certain point, it doesn't. So, and that's what they've done is $70,000 seems to be the point at which, when you increase that significantly, it doesn't significantly increase your levels of joy and happiness. So there's got to be another metric. And while the finances may be an important consideration when you're in survival mode, it's not going to be in self-actualization. So the person who has been incredibly successful, the billionaires of this world, by and large, aren't driven anymore by money. Right? They're driven by a compelling reason. There's a purpose. There's a dream they've got alive, whatever it is for them. It could be something they're running away from or something they're running to. But it's not about the cash anymore. It's about a bigger purpose more often than not. And this is what will keep the dream alive: is celebration, milestones, acknowledgements, getting connected to your purpose, all those things which will keep that going for you. Because, like I said, they could stay in bed and sleep here all day and still probably earn the same amount of money, but they're not living a life of purpose, and they're not really expanding themselves. And they're the two really key metrics that give people joy beyond a certain income level.
Yeah, it comes down to fulfillment,
Mm,
and if hitting your goals, it helps you get fulfilled
mm.
once you achieve it. So you got to celebrate that, because
Yeah.
once you're proving to yourself that you've stretched yourself to the limit mentally, to move to that next level, and then you achieve it, that gives you fulfillment. It
Mm,
gives you a form of success. And I'm not saying financially. I'm saying once you've stretched yourself mentally, going, I never thought I could achieve this, but you achieve it. What do? You should celebrate that.
mm, mm.
And then that fills your cup a little bit more of fulfillment. We should never have, we talk about the wipeout mentality, but sometimes you got to fill yourself as well. If
Mm.
you're not fulfilled, what are you doing?
Yeah. That's it. That's the brain. The brain will go, what's the point? If the
Yeah.
moment it gets to that point, it either loses interest or basically becomes despondent, and your motivation levels plummet. So it is really important that you regularly reconnect and give it some kind of like basically validation that this is a good thing, right? So Adam, we're going to leave our listeners with some action steps that would help them get the most out of what we've shared today. And there are 4 action steps that we share with everybody that would help them keep the dream alive in their life and world and help them get the most out of that. So the first thing right from the outset would to get as much clarity about the dream and vision as possible. So if you add as much information, engage all the emotions, sounds, feelings, pictures, everything to engage your senses, that will do what Adam said earlier on about creating like a vision and a direction that you emotionally feel engaged to pursue and follow through. So nothing keeps the dream alive than regularly playing that movie, listening to those thoughts, that self-talk, and referring back to why you're doing what you're doing.
It reminds me of the movie Titanic, at the start where the old lady goes, it's been 84 years. And then the guy goes, oh, no, it's all right. Don't stress if you can't remember anything. She goes, do you want to hear the story? And she
Mm,
goes, it's been 84 years and I can still smell the fresh paint.
mm,
And then all of a sudden the movie shifts and you can hear all the voices and the music, and it's just building that vision, and the way that obviously it's a movie, but that's how you should relate your vision making is you want a big house. All right, what does it look like? What does it smell like? Can you smell the fresh paint when you're walking in the door for the first time? Do you see your hand putting your key in the door and unlocking it for the first time? Are you relating it all to this? Do you have hardwood floors? Do you have carpet? Do you have tiles? You've got to relate all of these things. And that's something physical as a house, but same thing. Do you want your body goals? How big do you want your muscles? Do you want to see yourself with a tape measure holding around your arms going, I got 40-inch cannons sitting on my arms? Or you've got
mm,
to visualize it. How does it feel to flex that arm when you want that body? How does it feel when you go on the beach and you got a six pack? Or, it depends on your goal, but you've got to really, really get all of those emotions and that thought process into your visions.
mm, mm. No, good point. Good point. And just as you were saying that, I'm reminded of one of the biggest visionaries of our lifetime um, has been Walt Disney.
Yeah.
And there's a famous story about Walt Disney when he was unwell. He was actually in hospital, and he was in hospital. He was planning. Disneyland had already happened, and he was planning Epcot Center. And he was in his bed. He's there with architects and planners and everything like that. And then he passed away. And years later, his brother but when they broke not a ground, when they opened up the Epcot Center, these journalists turned around to his brother Ray, who's a lawyer who was overtaking the running of Disney, and they said, "Gee, isn't it sad that Walt never got to see this?" And the brother turned around and said, "No, you don't understand. It's because Walt saw this that now you're seeing it."
Yeah.
So that's the power of the vision. right? Walt saw it years before, and with so much detail that it was actually a blueprint, and he brought it to life.
Yep.
So to me, that's and this is what's happening now with Tesla. This is what's happening because the power of a vision is compelling, and the more clarity someone has in their mind, that's what Elon Musk now is doing. He's bringing dreams to reality. So absolutely fascinating. Um, Point number two, Adam, in keeping the dreams alive for you, it'd be to go, why is achieving this vision important to you? So we've got the clarity. Then the next level is, okay, why is this important? So we're really trying to unearth your purpose, your compelling reason for beginning this journey in the first place. That's a really important component, because when things get tough, and they invariably will, it's important to keep connecting back to your source, your compelling reason for beginning this journey.
Yeah, like for instance, why do you want to start a business? Is it because you want to earn more money? Is it because you want to go to a restaurant and not look at the prices? Is it because you want to raise enough money to give to charity? Is it because you want to employ heaps of staff? Or why do you want your body to look a certain way? Is it because you want to aesthetically look that way? Or do you want to be the fittest person that you know in your circle of people? What is your why behind why you do stuff?
Yeah. No, it's a good, basically connecting reason and principle to bring the dream alive.
Yep.
Okay, so once you've done those 2 points, the third thing you might want to do, this is about creating as many references to why this is important, and it's linking that up. These are the benefits. So you can go through 50 benefits of achieving this dream and vision. This is where the work happens, but unless you reinforce these reasons, you don't have compelling reasons to achieve it. So you might look at it and say, okay, yeah, my purpose of doing this is this. Okay, great. Okay, so what are the benefits to you in doing this? Well, it's going to allow me to do this. It'll allow me to do that. It'll allow humanity to have this. It's going to create options here. And like, the more reasons and connections that you have, that brings it to life, inspires you even further, and it makes it go from a dream to more of a reality, because you've got compelling drives and reasons to progress and move forward. And finally, point number 4 is, once you've established all that, you're clear on your vision, you know why you're doing it, and you've got so many of those benefits, let's start that journey today and ask yourself, what are 3 things that I could do right now or today that would help move forward this vision and dream? How do I take it from a hope to a practicality, to an action plan to help me get from where I am now to where I want to get to? So it's about taking that dream and starting that journey.
Yeah. So basically, what are your action steps?
Pretty much.
That's it.
Yeah. Plan the work the plan.
Yeah, that's it. And that's one of the reasons why Jim likes to add the action steps at the end, because it's sort of subconsciously training, especially me, to sit down and go, hey, you know what, we've got action steps. What am I going to do after the podcast? How am I going to relate? And, use this to grow, because sometimes we know the principles, but I don't always go and reflect on every topic every single day. Sometimes some topics scream out more than others. So, but every time we do the podcast and we got the action steps, it brings it right back to the top. And then and then I go, all right, cool. How do I do my personal development on this topic? Because I haven't done it for a little while. And so that's why it's cool to always have action steps at the end of this, as well as the show notes that you can get off our website.
Yeah, and it's a great reminder again, because there was some content again today. So if you want to refer back to it rather than trying to remember them all, they're there for you. They're uploaded. You'll have them as a reference. So you can go back not only on this episode but previous episodes, and know that there's always a template for you to refer back to. Sometimes you might go, I haven't got time for the whole episode, but what are the summary and note? That's what they're designed to do. And I actually even did that myself. Probably was it Monday, Tuesday this week, when I wanted to refer back to something, and they were even helpful for me to be able to go back and refer back and be able to source them in an instant. So that's what they're there for, as an ongoing resource as well. So Adam,
all right. Thank you.
big podcast episode today. I just want to say thank you to everybody for listening, everybody who's being of support to us. And, just some of the metrics and stats that Adam shared to me prior to the podcast show that our influence and impact is growing. And we're really grateful to each and every one of you for doing that, for all the messages of support you send to us. We're totally grateful. And I wanted to thank you once again for joining us in this episode. It's just a reminder that if you can connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and extended Launch and Beyond community on any of these channels, if there's specific questions that you want or some feedback that you had for us, we're open to it. We're open to questions, anything you want to post that you identify about the podcast or things that you'd like to see coming through in the podcast. Please share them with us. A lot of the times these thoughts, ideas, questions are the same ones everybody else has as well. And we happily respond to the Facebook messages or the personal messages received, but it's getting to the point where we're going to be limited in being able to answer each and every one of them in a timely manner. So it'd be great if we could share them on a bigger platform. So if you have got a question that you would be game enough to share that would be of benefit to everybody else, please do so. We'd be really grateful. And finally, if you are enjoying the podcast and finding value in it, we'd be grateful if you could go over to iTunes and leave us a review. This will just allow us to reach a larger audience and help more people. So Adam, episode number 39, loved it, came through me, as I said, so can't take any of the credit. It was great sharing the podcast time with you again on a Thursday this time.
Yep, something a little bit different. And
yeah,
we've got an announcement on Sunday on restrictions, so hopefully we can get back into studio and really bounce stuff off each other and feel each other's energy again. It's been an experience to do it over Zoom, but hopefully soon enough. And thank you to everyone who's persisted and listened to us. I know the sound quality has not been super awesome, but we're trying our best with our limitations, and we appreciate all the support. And it's been amazing to see the growth through this time as well with all our new friends and our guests that have been on. So thanks guys for persisting. Love you all.
Awesome. Bye everybody.